Welcome, everybody, to our first Lift Up live broadcast of 2025. I can't believe this is the first one in the new year, and we've got such an exciting topic that we can't wait to discuss with you, all around owning your purpose, talking about goal mapping, setting the scene for 25. We've got a high performance coach. We've got two phenomenal key speakers within the life sciences industry as well. So we really can't wait to bring them into this conversation. Currently, they're sitting backstage. But first of all, for anybody that's joined a Lift Up live broadcast or not done so in the past, we've been operating now for around 2.5 years. It was the summer of 2023 when we first kicked off Lift Up. It was a group of ambassadors inside Fraser Dove International, which is the recruitment, talent consultancy, executive search business that operates globally. We looked at all of the wonderful relationships we've got with senior women within the life sciences space and thought, how could we give back to the industry and encourage them to share their stories, their challenges, their career journeys, to really inspire and help connect and grow a women's community group internationally. So we've been doing that. We've had something like 26 live broadcasts. We've had over 70,000 global views now, 50 key speakers. We've had podcasts, we've had blogs. It's been a pretty phenomenal journey and hugely grateful for everybody that's taken part. But today, I'll do a quick intro on myself, actually, if this is the first time you've joined. So I am Louise Williams. I am the MD here at Fraser Dove. I've been in staffing for about 20 years, life sciences for 10 years, very passionate about the industry that we're in, mentoring, coaching, and championing other women. So without further ado, I'd love to bring in Felicia Work, who works for 1023. Hello, Felicia. If you could do an
Hi,
introduction,
Louise.
hi, to the audience for us.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me because this is really a topic that is so passionate, and so I'm super passionate about it. Very excited to be here. Thanks a lot.
That's
So,
okay. Yeah, your journey.
quick introduction. So I'm first of all a mother of two kids, a loving wife, and a passionate horseback rider. Maybe a weird start for an introduction, but that's really important in my life. And to discover this and to really discover my purpose in life was really an important journey for me. Well, I'm a psychologist by training, and that is also a big part of my passion and my purpose because I love people. I'm a very people-centric person. I love to work with people, and that is also the common thread through all the career steps and positions that I had. So I was working in personal and organizational development. I was a head of business development, head of strategy and project portfolio management, leading change and transformation globally for consumer health and Bayer. So I had various positions in many different companies, and the common thread was that I made it about people. Even in business development, having an MBA as well, but for me, it was mostly about people. And that is driving me, and it drove me also to my last career station at 1023 Health, which is a very purpose-driven company. So instead of having a people or a power hierarchy, we really say we have a purpose hierarchy and a competency hierarchy. And it's a very different way of working because we are self-organized, we are non-hierarchical, we are organized in circles, and that also we really ask the people to think about their individual purpose in life and how this aligns with the company purpose. And we experience that bringing that into in line, that is energizing and tremendously and
It's
brings
very
really the
important.
strength of the people out.
I love that. You've had a phenomenal journey, actually. And like you said, your role as people and culture at the moment, it kind of really fits into your overall passion and purpose in terms of everything that you've grown and developed within. So it's brilliant to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd love to bring in Claire Campbell as well, if you could do a introduction for us to the audience.
Lovely, thank you. Hi, Louise and Felicia, and thanks again for having us here today. So my name's Claire Campbell-Cooper. I work in clinical research, running clinical trials, and I've been in this industry for about 27 years now. I started studying medical biochemistry, and then I moved into data management, designing databases, and then further on to project management, managing phase 1 units, and then more recently into project management, global project delivery. And about four years ago, I moved into digital health and innovation. I'm very passionate about what I do. I love looking at solutions that we can provide for our patients. And one of the main drivers for me in this space is really, as Felicia said, being a mother. I've got a 14-year-old boy, and really trying to juggle full-time work with raising a child. And the other thing that happened to me, which has been a real key driver and also helped me develop my life's purpose, is really I lost my husband to glioblastoma, so a brain tumor, about 4 years ago. So that's really sort of put a bit of a skew on my normal life path, but it's really helped me understand what's really important. So part of that as well, he died during COVID. So it was really important for us to be able to provide healthcare solutions in the home. So that being able to juggle a full-time career with a lot of pressure and raising a child and caring at the same time has really helped me align how I feel about things.
Thank you, Claire, and thank you for the introduction and for your sort of open, authentic intro. I'm really looking forward to exploring this actually, because I think it's so multidimensional. Actually, having all of you as part of this panel, I think you've all got different experiences, different career journeys that's kind of all led you to this position today. So I think that we're hopefully going to have some great insights as well for the audience. And without further ado, and certainly last but not least, we've got Anna Mosley, a high performance coach. Lovely to have you here, Anna.
Hi, ladies, and hello to everybody listening in. This is going to be a great conversation, so get ready for some serious added value. I'm a high performance coach, and I'll tell you what I'm passionate about, and that is bridging the gap between mental fitness and high performance. I'm also a mum of 2. My girls are my world. I'm absolutely someone who believes in YOLO, you only live once, and I like to make the most out of life. You'll always see me having fun, and my purpose really to me is unlocking my potential whilst unlocking the potential of others in the most smart, simple and fun way possible. So I get leaders and teams in businesses of all sizes mentally fit so that they get in the right headspace, they get the clarity of thought to adopt growth mindset, because it's only then that we can drive high performance culture in business. And that is what I am here for, driving high performance culture so that we can convert that to commercial results and of course a thriving team that is happy both inside of work and outside of work, because in my opinion it is all about this wholehearted approach to people and the bigger picture. So excited to have this conversation. So let's dig in, Louise.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. Great intro. So I've popped in our Lift Up mission for those of you that may have missed it as we first dialed in. I'm going to be completely and utterly honest with you all that this is a new platform for us today. We're usually in StreamYard. So what I would love to do is ask everybody to put it is where they're dialing in from. So, you know, whether it's, we generally have such a global reach, to be honest, America, Europe, UK. So pop it in where it is that you're dialing in from, your name, maybe what part of life sciences or sector that you're in. We often have some repeat attendees, so that's always great to see. So pop it in, say where you're dialing in from, and also importantly, we want this to be as an interactive event as possible. So as we go throughout this live, if you've got any questions that you'd love to ask the key speakers, pop in a queue at the front of your questions, so it's easier for me to pull out of the chat and the comments. So don't be shy. But first of all, we're going to kick off, I think, with a really important question that we've actually pulled some of these through as well from our community group. So thank you to those that have been a part of that. The owning your purpose effectively, you know, what does that mean to you personally? I think it's a really important thing to recoup, recharge, and use that downtime to reflect and understand what is your purpose to kind of help you take that next step forward. So a question that the community wanted to ask you key speakers here today was, you know, how has that shaped your career and life choices? So I'm going to come to you, Felicia, first. Back to you.
Thanks a lot. I love the question. And I think, first of all, I would say it's not only about owning your purpose, it's first of all discovering it, because that is one of the hardest steps in the beginning, right? What is my purpose? And it's not about developing it, I would say. It's about discovering it, because it's already there. But some inner beliefs, some beliefs that we also get in school from our parents, that is also sometimes hindering to know our purpose. So the first step for me is to discover your purpose, and then to make it actionable. To not only say this is what I'm passionate about, but this is also means that I would like to do this, this, and this in my life. what helped me personally a lot is to read a book by John Strelacki called The Big Five for Life, because there you get a pretty much good plan how to
Big
discover your
Five for
purpose.
life. Okay.
And then
Yeah.
the question he's asking in the book is, coming from the end, is a little bit like, if you were laying on your deathbed and could happily say, I lived the life that I wanted to live, and I can now really satisfied and happily close my eyes because I did everything I wanted to do. What would you need to do today to be able to say that at the end?
Okay,
That
interesting.
helped me.
Yeah. Did you physically lay on the desk, close your eyes? Did you get to that point as then?
Well,
But
I
yeah,
admit it. And for me, to be honest, it led to some tremendous life changes even.
yeah,
We moved with
yeah.
our family from Basel here now to Neuchâtel, to the countryside of Switzerland, to live closer to nature, to the
Oh, I love
horses,
that.
which was
Yeah,
very important for me to discover how important that is for me.
yeah. I
I
get that
changed my
blend.
job. I get a career shift because of that. So it also gave me the last push to found my own company and to really
Yeah,
live my purpose, which is
yeah,
having a positive impact on people's life and
yeah,
their growth.
yeah.
And for that, I founded my own company, and there were this inner critic in the beginning that said, "You cannot found your own company. You're not good enough. You cannot
Yeah. Bit of
marketing
imposter
well enough."
syndrome sneaking in.
And
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. And I think that, your purpose or individual's purpose can change almost throughout your career. You don't have to necessarily have one and, sticking to that to life. Your life changes at certain decades, doesn't it? I feel like mine has definitely in the last
exactly, for
5 years.
sure.
So,
Well, there's
um,
kids and stuff can change it.
yeah, absolutely. So Anna, yeah, coming to you with the same question. What does this sort of owning your purpose mean to you?
Well, first thing I will say is that many people don't know what their purpose is, from my experience of coaching thousands of people. I think it might be helpful if I share a great tip. Let's
Yes.
share something actionable here, because this is a Simon Sinek technique. If you don't know who Simon Sinek is, he's all about knowing your why, which is basically what we're talking about today. And there is such power in questioning. And you don't need to be an expert coach to be able to ask yourself some fantastic questions. And one of the best questions you can ask yourself is why. Now, here's the first question. You ask yourself, what do I love about what I do? And you will interpret that question however you want. You might apply it to life, to work, whatever, it doesn't matter. What do you love most about what you do? And then you do the 5 whys. You ask yourself why. Write down a sentence. But why? Why? You do it 5 times. And what you will find is, and you can do this on yourself or a partner or a friend, you will dig deeper. And it's very likely you will get to what your real why is. And that is the sat-nav programming that you need to apply to your life and make sure that everything feeds into, if you really, truly want to thrive and live a fulfilled life. So I think that's a great tip to share.
Yeah, I love that,
People
because
wouldn't have heard about that.
Yeah, no, and it's true, because sometimes, you're thinking, and when you're answering that for the first time, it's almost surface level, isn't it? It's kind of what comes at the forefront of your mind, as opposed to like the back of your mind, and actually, like you said, really digging deeper. Yeah, I love that. We'll give that a go. And Claire, what's your thoughts in regards to this?
So for me, I think I've changed, like what you just said, Louise, was I've changed quite substantially over the course of, I would say, the last 20 years. And I think my purpose has changed throughout the course of that time. So sometimes my purpose has not been actually about me, it's been about other people. And I think for me personally, I feel like I need to make everything run in harmony and concert together. So when I really define what my purpose is, and when I think about it, I'm not trying to segregate my life up into different places. So my why is very much like, how do I live my life to make things better for me and for others, but not necessarily split it up into career and relationships and home life and things. And that, as a mum as well, is really critical to get down to that bottom of what is my purpose to make myself happy. And I think one of the things for me is actually that when you're talking, Anna, I think that why is really important, because I think when we define our purpose, a lot of the time we actually define it by looking at external to ourselves and not really looking at what actually means to us. And so that's sitting back and changing and not being scared of the change and scared that your life purpose is changing and you might need to take a different different path, and the
Yeah.
fact that sometimes it might not be about you, it might be about somebody else, I think is really important. But
Yeah.
being gentle with yourself in that space as well, while you think these things through and find your new purpose, I think is critical.
Yeah, I think you make an important point, or allude to an important point there, Claire, which is, are we living our lives by someone else or something else's, I would say, values rather than purpose? It could be purpose. There's a big link between values and purpose, as you can imagine. I know we're coming to values, Louise.
Yeah.
Values being the things that are the most important to you in your life. Let's just keep that simple. Your values are the criteria by which you should be living your life. You should be aligning to those values. But I know I spent a lot of my past life with my good girl syndrome, having been brought up to be the best, get the gold stars, get the A stars, rewarded for that end result. That good girl syndrome, actually, when I reflect on it, led to me living my life through, well, my parents' values and the values of society, and doing what I feel like I should do. And when I worked at L'Oreal, where I started my career, I remember working to 9 p.m. at night because I should do that.
Yeah.
Well, that's that really.
Or you thought that was that was what you should be
so
doing.
all this has changed now. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great point, Claire.
Yeah, no, I love that external. And it's so often when you do ask people about their purpose, and there's nothing wrong with this, but the external element is so true. You know, it is often family and children and this and all of that, of course, is important, and it does factor in. But sometimes it's actually okay, I think, just to turn around and say, well, actually, I want a portion of that purpose to be internal, to kind of be me. So yeah, I really like that. So we've got some great ones, questions coming through from the community, actually. And you're right, the values piece is really important. But whilst we're kind of just still talking about uncovering your unique purpose, just for people that are perhaps, on their journey of personalizing what success potentially looks like, and that's a huge question, isn't it? What does success look like? You put that in LinkedIn, it just blows up, because how do you define success? But what are the first sort of few steps do you think that somebody should take when they're on that journey at the beginning? Felicia, maybe come to you with this question.
Yes, thanks a lot, because actually I would love to answer that, because it also resonated so well with what Claire before said this, and also this connecting to yourself, I think, is really the first step. To really connect to your inner self. I would even say to connect to your inner child, because this usually tells us a lot about what we really want and may not say it anymore. And so often, as we also heard, we live with the values of our parents, and to carefully sit back and really connect with yourself and sort out what is actually here my part, and what is the part of my friends, my community, my parents, my lifestyle in the past. That is very helpful. And for that, I experienced really this connecting goes easier with meditation. So if we really take deep breaths and take some time also to self-reflect, and to start building this relationship with yourself deeper, on a deeper level. And part of it is, I think it's helpful to also use profile assessments. So for example, I like to work with Profile Dynamics. It's one of the many profiles out there, or Gallup Strength Finder, or whatever you prefer. And that also gives you usually some hints, especially when you do several of those profiles, and then you can see the common thread going through.
Yeah.
That I experience also in my coachings, from a coachee perspective, as very helpful to find your value drivers. So your deep down drivers that are pushing you in life.
Great. That's some great advice there. Have you got anything there to add, Claire, do you think?
I love what Felicia said about you understanding yourself and connecting with your inner child. For me, it's very much about really understanding what drives your soul, what makes your heart sing. And I think if you can actually keep authentic to that, and then make those your values of how you want to live your life and set your goals around, I think you can't go far wrong from that. Because for me in my career, and also from over the last 25 years, I've found for myself is when I deviate from that, or when I'm put in a position where I'm not aligning with what my soul wants, that's when I become quite contracted and anxious, and then I'm not fulfilling my life's purpose. So for me, it's finding what your soul says, and then developing it from there.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's not getting too distracted with external factors. I know that this is something we previously talked about, where you can set goals, you can understand what success means to you, but then so easily you can then see something like, X person's been promoted to VP of blah, blah, blah on LinkedIn, and you suddenly think, well, God, I haven't reached that level yet, or I've been doing this for 3 years now. Should I be thinking about a promotion or development or the next step? And it's like, well, no, because if what you're doing you love, it gives you work-life blend. It allows you to be with your family. If you can live in the country, you don't have to be in the office. Whatever that might well be, like that's your success zone. You don't necessarily have to compare yourself to others, and it's a really difficult thing, I think, in our day and age with so many social medias and expectations sometimes that can happen. You can almost bleed into wanting other people's success when actually it's just trying to then anchor back to what yours is. Sorry, I just chimed in there. Anna, is there anything that you're thinking, feeling on
I
this?
think one of the most important questions anyone can ask themselves is what does success mean to me? And there's a joint exercise here of asking yourself, what do I value in life? So another exercise would just be to ask yourself, what's important to me in my life? Over and over again. Write it down. Be in the silent room, meditate first if you can, get really in the present moment, repeat that question over and over. You'll end up with a list, or you could ask someone to do it for you, even better. Obviously, I would normally do this in a coaching environment. You can do it yourself. Get a list of things that are important to you. Say what comes from the heart. Often the things that come out last are actually coming from a very deep place, which is quite fascinating, unconsciously. You get this list, then you prioritize it in order of importance to you. And be really real about it. Don't write what you think should be at the top. Order it in terms of alignment to your soul, like Claire says. And then a great thing you can do is give yourself a percentage of fulfillment level for the top 5 or 8. Let's say the top 8. Give yourself a percentage of fulfillment level. You may well find that you score quite lowly for some of those top ones. So, for example, I had a client that ended up putting adventure as number 1, and she scored 5% out of 100%. So she was hugely unfulfilled in the thing most important to her life. It's off the back of that exercise that I think it becomes clear what success represents to you. And I'll be very open to share that back in the day, success to me, or what I was chasing, and I think the word chasing is an important word. I was chasing the bigger house. I was chasing the next child. I was chasing more money, the position, status. And now I know that top of my list is connection, growth, nature, family. Success for me represents something incredibly different, and it is growth, and it's being in the present moment with my kids. And if I can achieve that, then I am winning at life. So you've got to know yourself and get to know yourself.
Yeah, I love
if
that.
I may jump in there, because
Yeah,
I love this coaching example, and I also had one, and then the person said, I don't even know anymore what I want. I don't feel myself anymore, and I have no clue what I want and what success would mean in my life.
Yeah.
Because we sometimes tend to disconnect so much from ourselves because we're so driven in chasing and going after the other. And the next
I even have I have a session I offer called a life audit. And I recommend that everyone takes a life audit. It's 2 hours of stopping and reflecting on where am I at? Where do I want to be? What are my values? How do I need to set my sat nav? And what actions do I take to achieve that alignment that so often is missing in people's life? And that's what creates those emotions of discontent and demotivation and frustration. Very interesting and important.
And sometimes it's this discovery journey I experience is also helpful to think about what are you looking for in your daily life? And sometimes I then start with easy questions like, where do you like to shop? What kind of shops do you like to go to? Is it an adventure store? Is it rather something with a lot of nature stuff and outdoor stuff, or is it the high fashion, or is it what is appealing to you? What kind of stores? What kind of environment are you seeking? And look at your friends. What are they doing, and what are you looking for in them, in the relationships with them? And then the people are pretty clear what they want there and what they're subconsciously looking for anyways. And then I think it helps to make it very, very pragmatic and very tangible to also see the success coming in. Because if you build small habits, if you celebrate those successes, if you make it about small steps and slicing the elephant, then you can also start rewarding yourself and energizing you again. And then out of the negative spiral can
come into the positive spiral.
Yeah, and actually the reward section in the goal mapping is really important. Just before we jump into the goals, just a very quickly piece on the values actually, because I know that you are highlighting the values, the importance of values. So how can somebody identify what their core values are? I think, the passion piece is probably a bit self-explanatory. We've talked about this as well in the last 10-15 minutes around, looking back to your childhood, or, identifying your passions with a bit of quiet time. That's something that's easier said than done. The values piece though, so many people often will not really know what their values are. They'll go and read a company's values on a website and think, oh well, that sounds a bit like me, yeah, I could buy into that. and then they don't often stop to think their own. So is there a technique, is there anything that you could advise on the value piece? Anna, you were mentioning
That's
it
the
earlier.
that is the question where you ask yourself, what's important to me in my life? That's it. Honestly, do not overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
Just reflect on what does really matter to me in my life. What constitutes a great life? So things that come up might be independence, security, nature, connection.
Yeah.
Some odd things come up sometimes.
Yeah.
And interestingly, there could be things that come up as a result of something tough that's happened in someone's past. If someone's been on the street as a kid, often money will be top. And it's not being driven from a positive place. It's being driven from a place of lack. And that's an issue, and so you coach them through. So lots of interesting things come up. But that's what I would say, keep it simple. Reflect on what's important to you.
Yeah, and how you like to be treated, what's important. And because I think that's where trust, honesty, openness, communication as well, just in terms of some values that I'm coming to mind. Is there anything to add to that, Claire?
I think the bit that I pick up from this is the when you're feeling stuck and unclear. So for me, that time is, I completely agree with what Anna said. I also think it's quite important when you're feeling stuck to revisit what you initially come back to, because I think when you're in that downward spiral, and I think probably if we're all going to be completely honest, we've all had times when we've been in that downward spiral. I think it's very important that when we get to that bottom, we do this exercise. We look at what values that we want, what's important to us, and then write it down, but then also revisit. Because I think that's the time, if you think about getting stuck, or you've got to come out of things slowly a lot of the time. You've got to give yourself space to recalibrate, recenter, and then look at it again. Because what you don't want to do is let certain lenses that you have through your life then set the goal again and the value. So I think that recalibration piece is and thinking things through when you're in a slightly better place, because when you're at the right at the bottom, it's never it's a good place to look, but it's not the best place to settle. So then to re-look, I think, is really important, and be fine with yourself and change what it is, because I know my values have changed over time, and I have no doubt that they'll change again. So for me, it's like when you're stuck, look at it, put everything down, do the exercise Anna was just saying, and then revisit again, just to reaffirm what you believe.
Yeah, I love that. You talk a lot about positive lenses and negative lenses and just your outlook and way of thinking, don't you, Anna? And I think that so I don't know if there's anything from your perspective to add to that, but my only questioning, maybe one for you, Felicia, is how often do you go back and reflect? I think it's a great idea that you're logging those, and you're not, I think, Anna, I've done exercises with you in the past. I think TJ Power as well, and putting it actually into your mobile, putting it into a device that doesn't, you write it in a book, that book gets lost, that book gets, binned eventually or wherever, but like put it into something that you can easily revert or look back to on a quarterly or, basis. So I'm not sure what your thoughts are with that. I think I've got somebody playing around with the back end screen. I must admit, I do apologize to the audience because I don't seem to be able to see the chat. So if you are putting questions in, and if you are saying hello, please continue. There might be an eventually. I've got one of our marketing teams trying to sort it out back end. As I said, this is a new platform for us today. So I'm not ignoring you, but we've got some great questions still to go through. I don't know whether it's worth us jumping on actually around the actual piece around goals, creating meaningful goals, just from a actionable takeaway for the audience. But I guess one of them's here, a question that had come through was, what steps do you take to ensure your goals remain connected to your personal purpose? How often do you feel that goal setting is, and then being able to connect back to that on a personal basis, maybe, how often would you do that, Anna, would you say?
I think everyone should have a macro goal for the
Yeah.
year, for example, but we have to work back down to the first tiny step. And this is the mistake people make. I really encourage people to try and really recognize the value in growth. And growth is one tiny step in the right direction. So I'm a big fan of something called Kaizen. For anyone who doesn't know about Kaizen, it's a Japanese philosophy of marginal gains, continuous improvement. And it is about smart change. It's small change. So a great analogy is, imagine there is a pilot flying a plane and he or she changes the direction of that plane by 1 degree, tiny little shift. Over time, that plane could be landing on a completely different continent. So it's the notion of, and this is the really clever thing neurologically, is that if you make a tiny change, it's so comfortable that it's quite easy to make. And you bypass the amygdala part of your brain, which would normally send you into overwhelm, fight or flight. And it becomes very easy to continue that new habit. So when you're starting a new habit, start small. Felicia alluded to this earlier. And before you know it, you're getting momentum because you're making continuous tiny change, which eventually is going to accumulate to some big change overall. And I think that is the smartest way to approach progression. It's what the best companies in this world are doing in terms of culture. And it's hopefully going to be a major takeaway from people listening, because that's how you're going to achieve the most you possibly can in 2025. But you do work back from an overriding goal.
Keep
your eye on the next step.
Yes, I understand. Yeah, no, that's great advice there. And coming to you with the same question then, Claire, with a slight spin around the fact that how can you set goals that are both ambitious and realistic at the same time? What are your thoughts with this?
So for me, I think I completely agree with looking at the macro goal. I think you can look at what you want to do longer term, and put that as your ambitious goal. But sometimes your ambitious goal is something that isn't just achievable at the moment. It could be a much longer term goal that you've got to get to. I think some of the things that you might want to say, all right, I want to run a marathon, but I'm going to start by what you were just saying, Anna. I'm going to do lunges on the way to the toilet because I'm chained to my desk for 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
And you start off with tiny steps. And I think sometimes you've got to look at just what goals do you need to do for the now and to get through where you need to be. And I used to have goals in some of the times. I just needed to get through the day. I needed to get through the day with a sane head on my shoulder. My husband's still okay. My son's got through school and homeschooling hasn't gone too badly. So sometimes your goals are really, really small, but then they feed into the macro goal over time. And I think the macro goal has to be very personal to yourself. That is something that is based on your values. But sometimes the realistic goals are just something that's going to get you through the day. And I think, again, for me, it was very much, don't beat yourself up about the stuff you've got to do now, because you've got to just get through now. But things will change over time. And I think that's where your ambitious goal comes in, which is much more about what you can do. So the realistic goals are just the short term. What do you need to do? And I think sometimes if you're not realistic with the goals that you need to do just to get through the moment that you're in, you lose sight of what yourself and then your long-term goal.
Yeah, and that's interesting. And I'll come to you as well, Felicia, with this. But what jumped to mind when you were talking there, Claire, was, those in my head, the sort of ambitious ones that people set fast and in a very short time frame, which are often New Year's resolutions, right? They come into the new year and they're more wishes than they are goals. And by the second Friday of January, I think 80% of people just drop off. So it's an interesting one, because I do what we call goal mapping actually in this business. I did it previously, so I've been doing it for about 6 years. I do it often around once a year, and the goal mapping is actually set from a Brian Main, if anybody knows the Brian Main's kind of mindset and setup. But actually, I think Paul McKenna has just launched a book actually in the UK around power of manifesting, and it's actually a very similar model to Brian that I was using over the last handful of years, and it is around ultimately you're getting into that manifesting state of mind where that goal you're feeling, seeing, hearing, you're really imagining yourself in that position, whether it's a year, 5 years time, whatever that is, and then you're working yourself backwards to identify those milestones that's going to get you there, and then you're almost bite-sized chunks, Anna, as you were saying. But I think, yeah, that's where sometimes people maybe go wrong, is they go too ambitious, too fast, too smaller periods, not
Yeah.
very realistic, and then dry January becomes damp January and then becomes very wet. So yeah, it's just, but yeah, Felicia, have you got any thoughts in regards to this before we jump on to maybe saying staying driven? I guess that's an important one.
I would say I have good experiences also in the company to work with OKR, so objectives and key results, and I love that to do that also personally, because it's defining the what, and there I completely agree with Anna, deduct it from the purpose or from your long-term goal. So just don't come up with objectives because, just deduct it from your macro goal.
Yeah.
And then also make it emotionally relatable and make it fun. I mean, especially about personal goal setting, you should say, yeah, that's what I want to do. And
get excited about it. Yeah.
Not I just want to lose weight or I want to do this. No, I want to maybe reconnect with my body and be able to climb the mountain with my kids. That's a different thing. And then you can deduct the steps that I needed to get there from there.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, Felicia, I'll come to you with this question. So from a tackling kind of challenges or staying driven, staying on that journey in that lane, what strategies have you perhaps implemented or overcome whilst you've maybe encountered any setbacks along your kind of personal journey? Is there any advice that you'd give?
Oh no, that doesn't happen to me. I don't have
No, you never get any setbacks. That'd be
No,
lovely.
I think it's also going in that direction, making it emotional. I mean, of course, when there is a setback and you see it's not going exactly the way that I planned it, then come up with an alternative route and don't be. I mean, that's maybe also one of my stubbornness here, and say no, don't be stubborn. Don't be just one-sided in that direction. Find another creative way to get to your long-term goal. And also, I would say share it in your network and discuss it a lot with the people around you. And you might be surprised how much support you also get to stay on track.
Yeah, I love
Also,
that.
sometimes in a pushy way, maybe,
That's
but
a good
also.
idea. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Almost bringing your community, and community could just be your family, couldn't it? Immediate, wider family, kind of bringing them in line with what your goals are and what your sense of purpose is, and that they can also help you drive towards that. I love that.
I have a sticker on my laptop, and there are the big five of my life for my life on it. And then, of course, people also approach me and say, what is that? And what do you want to do there? And that is very helpful to stay on track.
Yeah, I love the big five. I will definitely look at that. And then Claire, very similar question really, but how do you maintain motivation and confidence, especially during, really challenging times? I know that you've gone through some really tough times in the last, 4 or 5 years. Well, actually, it's probably longer than that, wasn't it really? But what kind of tools and habits, and was there anything that you found really effective that helped you get through some of those tougher periods?
Well, I'm going to say the flippant answer first and say wine. But the serious answer was maintain when it's in challenging times. I think giving yourself space and letting yourself almost just bounce back. I used to refer to being a weeble, and when bad things happen or things that you don't necessarily count as part of your life plan, you get knocked, and the Weeble's a 1970s toy, and it's very bottom heavy, and it sort of goes down, then very slowly it comes back up, and then it sort of does a bit of that, and then it goes back up right again. And I think that was a really good way of just managing the differences. And you know what? Life happens all the time. I mean, I don't think there's probably anybody on this call that you started off life and everything's gone to plan and it's all good. So that maintaining the confidence is accepting that stuff's going to happen, and it's not going to always be the good stuff that happens. So building that flexibility into the plan, and if something doesn't go to plan and you've got to change direction, and don't beat yourself up about it. you did have something there about self-reflection. I think self-reflection is really important, but again, I think self-reflection is a good tool if you're not going to beat yourself up over what you're reflecting on. And I think that's really valuable. So for me, I try not to make snap decisions. I try not to be too harsh on what happens, and then let yourself bounce back up and settle yourself back in, and then start replanning. So again, it's always giving yourself that time to not let your emotions and your stress and that contracted feeling
weigh you down.
Map out where you're going. So just pull back a bit, I think, is the best way that I've managed to do it, and give myself some flexibility there.
Louise, I'd just like to add the importance of realism and just build on what Claire said there, because as a coach, I deal a lot with breaking through barriers, and perfectionism is a massive one. For females, but to be honest, across all genders. I think it's really important to see life as a journey. I love the word journey. For me, language is a great way to frame things. Life is a journey. You don't know what's around the corner. It is grey. Expect the grey, lean into the grey, embrace the grey, tolerate the grey. And at times, like Claire said, you have to flip in, praise yourself for just getting through an hour, because it's so tough sometimes. So, but in all seriousness, are we praising toleration? Because we should be sometimes. That is an achievement to get through that hour, that day, for some people at certain times in their life. We can all do that. And a phrase that I love is, you either win or you learn. Let's stop trying to win all the time and then beat ourselves up if we perceive ourselves to fail. There's a learning in everything that comes our way, every single curveball. And I think that that's a great way to approach life. And I was talking to Claire on a separate call, you know, there's a great phrase called post-traumatic growth, how we can grow from some of the hardest things that might happen in our lives. It's a beautiful phrase, and it's the most incredible thing when you see it in people. And so I think we've got to be realistic and kind to ourselves along that journey.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Anna. And we've actually got obviously we've got a bit of a glitch. I'm not sure what's going on with the chat channel, but one of my colleagues has been forwarding through lots of questions. Probably don't have time to go through all of them, but just a couple that have popped up here. So we've got Sue Soderholm, if I pronounced that correctly, I hope I have. Please add the book name and author for us to review. I didn't know if that's a Paul McKenna. If it is, I can definitely do that. That's Power of Manifesting. Was there another book that one of you ladies mentioned?
Big Five for Life is down there.
Big Five for Life.
Yeah.
Awesome, excellent. Mohammed, I think he's asked a couple of questions. What kind of advice would be provided for people at different stages in their careers, such as board members, professionals, academias? You know, anything to add to that, maybe, Anna?
Yeah, I think you've got to check in with your values. It's not something you need to check in with every day, but I think when you go through a poignant time in your life, maybe you have children, a promotion, you're a board member all of a sudden, it is well worth going back to that. And do not underestimate the power of working with a coach. And that's not me promoting myself here. I genuinely believe that is money well spent, because it's quite hard doing these exercises on your own. No,
it is. Couldn't agree more. No,
it is.
Let's not underestimate how hard that is. So invest in yourself, program that sat nav, and then everything else you make, every decision you make will become so much more easy off the back of that. So keep revisiting it in key moments in your life is my answer.
Love that. And do you have an example for small, oh goodness, is it Kaizen changes? Kaizen changes. Got that. Is there any examples that you've got there? I think Lena has asked the question. I'm putting you on the spot here.
No, that's fine. So if I've not exercised for years, let's go extreme. If I've not exercised for years, then the Kaizen shift is putting trainers at the end of my bed and walking past those trainers. Then a week later, it's putting the trainers on and wearing them around the house. I kid you not. If the change seems ridiculous, you are in the right ballpark. Remember, we are bypassing that overwhelm, resistance, that fear that is usually guaranteed to get us falling off that wagon. 80% do fail by the 10th of January with New Year's resolutions. So that's a good example. Another one might be you want to eat less chocolate. Well, break off a bit of a bar of chocolate and just eat the rest. Again, it might sound ridiculous, but you are starting somewhere. And before you know it, you will have the momentum to want to take the next step.
Yes.
Start
Yeah.
small.
And maybe
Don't,
maybe to add on this,
yes.
what also might help is this 5-second rule. I don't know if you
Yes.
heard about this from
Yes.
by Mel Robbins,
No,
and
share. I don't think I've heard this.
It's a good
I
one.
think it's an amazing idea. She got it from a rocket start to why are they doing the countdown backwards? So 10, 9, 8. And she said this helped her in a very depressive phase of her life. And she said, just count backwards before everything chimes in with, yeah, it's bad weather outside. I shouldn't be going running and I should stay in bed. Before all those voices come up, say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up and do it. And then she has an amazing
I'm
talk
going
on
to
that.
try that.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a pattern interrupt because one thought
Yes.
leads to 100
Interrupt.
thousands of thoughts. So that's a really clever pattern interrupt. That's all that is. And it does
Yes.
work.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. That's brilliant. And Claire, I know we're really running out of time. I know you just popped in Mohammed's question there. How can identifying your core values help in uncovering your unique purpose? You know, I think we may have talked a little bit about that earlier on, but is there like a snippet summary that you could maybe give to Mohammed to summarize that?
Yeah, so for me, if you can really say what's important to you, then you'll be able to authentically identify what you want to do with your life. And I think that is the bottom line, is if your soul and your heart is saying that this is what is important to me, then it will help you define what your short-term goals and your long-term goals are. And I think if you can maintain being true to yourself, that's what's going to help you define what your purpose is.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Claire. Great bit of advice. We're probably going to have to wrap up now, but there's always a question that I love to ask everybody that's been on these live broadcasts, and it's the last one here. So come to you, Felicia, first. What one bit of advice would you give your younger self? Now, that doesn't have to be topic related, but if you just went back in time, you know, what it could be a word, a phrase, but what would you give your younger self? What advice?
I also see it now as a mother. I would like to give that to my children now, that they come in this world perfectly. And now we just have to take care that we're not screwing them up. If I'd known that myself, that I'm okay the way I am, and all I
Yeah.
want and need
Yeah.
is part of me and is okay. If I had
Yeah.
known and accepted that earlier,
Yeah. Be yourself.
who knows what happened?
Yeah. No, I love that. So be your authentic self, love yourself, stay true to yourself. No, love that. Claire?
I think my advice would be breathe. Like, breathe before you react, breathe before you answer anything, breathe before you make a decision, breathe to take the anxiety away from yourself. And I think if you can give yourself that 5 seconds of breath, I think you'll make better choices in your life.
I think Anna calls that second thought, don't you?
Yeah, own your second thought. Yeah,
Yeah.
create that gap. Hang on, couldn't agree more.
Yeah, that's something I still do actually from your training day that you did with us a while back. It's such an important, especially with kids. That's the one thing I find is it's so easy, isn't it, to, they've just not got their shoes on after you've asked them 5 times and you just feel like you want to implode because you've got to get out the house at a certain time and get it. And then you're just like, actually, if I do that, this is what's going to happen. It's going to, like, all hell's going to break loose. Actually, second thought, let's respond differently. Yeah, that was one that's very much stayed with me actually, Anna. So yeah, sorry, I've interrupted you. What's your one bit of advice?
I've actually got 2, if you don't mind, because they're equally as important, I think. One is to say to myself, stop regularly and ask the question, how far have you already come?
Yeah.
That's coming from an ex-perfectionist and a chaser.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
How far have I already come before I start beating myself up about something ridiculous? And the second one is good is enough. Most of the time, good is absolutely enough. And did you know that to get a first-class degree in Oxbridge, you have to get 70%? Now, let that be a sign that good is enough, right?
Yeah.
Yes, at times we have to tune up to 100. Of course we do. If my kids are off sick, if business is booming and I'm really busy, but I'm very aware of when I am putting my foot down to the pedal. And my aim
burnout.
is, and I've done it and I've had a breakdown. And for now, recognition of good is enough has resulted in higher performance because my clarity of thought and balance is better.
And happier.
So that's what I'd explain to my younger self.
Yeah, I love that. Well, look, thank you, ladies. It's such a great topic. I always love speaking to about this topic with you all, and hopefully some great takeaways as well for the audience. So For anybody that's missed this, we're going to be able to launch this back onto LinkedIn, so you can rewatch it. We get something like 2,000 to 3,000 rewatches of our live broadcasts. So please, share with any colleagues, friends, family. Hopefully some great advice here has been shared today. We've got our next Lift Up live broadcast in February. I think we're going to be talking about female founders, which is an exciting topic as well, I know. But for now, I just want to say a huge thank you to you all. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to our wonderful key speakers. And bye for now. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.